What's up, YouTube? How's everyone doing this lovely Sunday afternoon? It's the boy Reg in the building. This has been a while since I've actually done a pre-recorded video. Cause lately I've been doing been busy with the beef episodes and of course the live videos. Shout out to Try, shout out to Ash, by the way. So I was like, what? I'm gonna do some pre-recorded videos for the next couple of days to catch up. And if you guys can hear in the background, the album I'm going to review on today is the Beatles with their seventh studio album Revolver. This album was released in 1966 on it says here EMI Records, but it was actually recorded on Parlophone Records and whatnot. George Martin, he pretty much produced this whole album. Everyone in the world knows who the Beatles are. I mean, it's definitely, everyone knows who they are. I'm not even gonna get into that. I done a review on Abbey Road. If I'm not mistaken, I think I've done a review on Abbey Road years ago. So, it only came out with two singles, like Eleanor Rigby and Yellow Submarine. So yeah, so the story with this album, this is pretty much the beginning. If you ask some people, this is pretty much the beginning of their second era, where they were doing a lot more mature music, because it kind of started with Rubber Soul, which is a very good album in its own right too, and they carry that over to this album. And just to let y'all know, I'm not the biggest Beatles fan. I kind of prefer the later period, from '66 to '69. That's the Beatles I prefer and stuff like that. So. And around this time too, music wanted to move away from promoting singles to actually making albums of higher quality. And so, with that being said, they had just done the Beatles at Shea Stadium, and so what had happened was, they were just getting ready, going into the psychedelic period, and I want to say this was around the time that John Lennon said the Beatles were more popular than Jesus or some stuff like that, which kind of caused them that, and just the ills of performing live. It kind of caused them to take a break from performing live and just focus primarily on the studio. And also around this time too, they were experimenting with LSD and weed and stuff like that. Well, Paul McCartney, he didn't really want to try LSD and stuff like that. So yeah, man, and I had my notes written on this album, but I guess my laptop deleted it. So that's why I'm kind of going off the rim here and stuff like that. So, but with this album, I kind of know a lot about this album. So yeah, and so with this album and stuff like that, this was actually I want to say the first album that George Harrison contributed to songwriting too. So yeah, man, it's actually a very interesting album. Album cover. This is the album cover right here. This is around the time they would started growing their hair out a lot more too. So, pretty dope album cover. This has obscure drawings of the Beatles and stuff like that. So yeah, man, very interesting album cover. The Beatles, another thing about the latter period of the Beatles, that album covers were just so trippy and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? And this is actually I want to say a remastered edition. I don't know what year, because I got this whole Beatles Love Mono thing, so I don't actually know what year remastered this is. I love that song. So yeah, if I can find that by the end of the review, I definitely got y'all handled. Alright, so with that being said, this album has about 14 tracks. So you guys know what I'm about to do. We're gonna get this shit started. Track number 1 we got is Taxman. One of my all-time favorite tracks off this album. Or maybe in the Beatles period and stuff like that. George Harrison, he actually wrote this track, and just from the beginning sounds of the song, you can hear like a difference between yeah, 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 all that excuse me, pop. The thing about vinyls and stuff like that, sometimes it skips, but while I'm doing that, just by like the guitar riff that Harrison was doing and stuff like that, have more of like a choppy guitar like that ding 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 ding. And so the story about Taxman was during like the mid '60s, um, during the mid '60s, when it came to like British, they were like getting like an increase in taxes and stuff like that. And so with the Beatles pretty much had like some financial positions and stuff like that they had to go through. And so with the song is talking about Ted Heath, who was the leader of the Conservative Party, and Mr. Wilson, which I'm trying to like pull up. Like I said, I don't have my notes because my notes deleted, so I gotta do like a lot of research and stuff like that, going off the rim. Um, Mr. Wilson is pretty much okay, computer. Harold Wilson, yes, who was part of like the British Labour government and stuff like that. So this was just like a song making fun of like taxes and whatnot. Like I love the line where he says, "Let me tell you how it will be. There's one for you, 19 for me, cause I'm the tax man. Yeah, I'm the tax man." So yeah, that I love that track right there. Like George Harrison definitely around this time he held his own when it came to songwriting. Like I know everyone's on Paul and John or whatnot, but some of my favorite Beatles songs, George really wrote them and stuff. So the chorus when it was like Tax Man, they were influenced by the 1960s show, the Batman 1960s show, with Adam West. Rest in peace to Adam West, by the way. And they were trying to emulate that and whatnot. So this was pretty much like a song about them not really coming to realize about taxes and money, because no shade, but the Beatles, they've always had money issues, especially around this time too. And so yeah. Track number 2, Eleanor Rigby. Eleanor Rigby, that's again another iconic classic song from this album or whatnot. Um, this song was very unique because it kind of brought classical music to like the rock mainstream and stuff like that. And pretty much, the song's talking about loneliness and whatnot too. It had like a very baroque pop feel to it and stuff like that. So, and to this day, there's still debate as to who wrote more off this track, either John or Paul. To me, I kind of say this is Paul written all over it, if you ask me, because if you really decipher the songwriting between Paul and John, especially around this period, John's songwriting was like a lot more satirical, darker, whereas Paul had like the more baroque, like happy, not like happy, but like a moderate tone and stuff like that too. So, and that the harmony too is what really, okay, the harmony was what really draw people's attention to when it came to this track right here. So, yeah, man, Eleanor Rigby is definitely like again another very dope track. Um, and so according to Paul, in a recent interview that he did with Rolling Stone, he pretty much said that Eleanor Rigby was based off some old lady that he knew as a kid and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. Very cool song. Track number 3, I'm Only Sleeping. Yes, this is the one that John definitely had his hands all over. This definitely has like a very psychedelic tone to it and stuff like that, because while I was reading up about this album, they were saying how like John pretty much like he was just spending the majority of the time, if he's not recording any music, just watching TV and doing LSD. And so with I'm only sleeping and stuff like that, it pretty much talks about that. And so this was the first time that you heard like a backwards guitar playing and stuff like that. So that's one thing I've always found interesting. George Harrison actually did the guitar riff on that. So very, very, very. Oh, and also this was actually the first use of the vibraphone too and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And then track number four, we got Love You Too, which Love You Too is like again playing in the background, very like had like a very Indian music feel to it, which because they took a trip to India, and George Harrison was pretty much influenced by that sound, and he kind of brought it to the rock music landscape, which not a lot of people give George Harrison credit for and stuff like that, because Paul and John they really wasn't really messing with that and stuff like that. So Love You Too at that time was like a love song to his wife at that time, Patty Boyd, and whatnot. So yeah, this was a very interesting track right here. Very groundbreaking. Next track, we got Here, There, and Everywhere. Oh my God, a classic track right here. Around this time, Paul was very influenced by the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album, which is a very dope album, one of my all-time favorite albums of all time. And just the whole Baroque sound and Brian Wilson's storytelling, especially on a song like God Only Knows, he wanted to incorporate that with this track right here. And so Here, There, and Everywhere definitely is like a very gentle ballad about a man who's obsessed with trying to find love and whatnot. So you know what I'm saying? So let me fix this shit. I love vinyls, I love record players, but this is the shit I hate the most. But I'm grateful I have the album too. So yeah, so Here, There, and Everywhere, very gentle, soft little ballad. I know a lot of diehard fans consider this to be like one of Paul's best songs written. So yeah, man. Track number six, Yellow Submarine. Ringo actually written this one. Not really the biggest fan of this track right here, to keep it a buck with y'all. Here, There, I mean, Yellow Submarine is like a novelty kind of song, kind of written for children and whatnot. And again, you know what I'm saying? Again, I know at that time it was pretty much of the norm at that time, but yeah, not really one of my faves. No, actually, hold up, pause. No. Ringo sang it. Paul actually written it. Okay, I'm tripping. Okay. So, track number seven, She Said. Another very dope track right here. Definitely had that one of those psychedelic tracks right here. What I got from this track, She Said, pretty much was the fact that it's just a very LSD influenced track, and believe it or not, Paul he actually walked out of the studio when he was recording this track because from what I looked up, he didn't really care too much for the lyrics, and like I said before, he wasn't really about that LSD and shit like that because he mostly preferred marijuana and stuff like that. So, and the song was inspired by Peter Fonda and stuff like because he had taken an acid trip with George and John and stuff like that, and apparently Harrison was having a bad trip and Peter was trying to like calm him down and whatnot. So well, interesting too because if you guys remember John Lennon's Playboy interview, which was like one of the last interviews he did before he died, he recounted that night and he said how Peter Fonda kept saying, "I know what it's like to be dead, man." And Lennon kind of found that to be kind of creepy and like, what the fuck you mean by that shit? You know what I'm saying? So, very dope song. Yeah, man. That concludes side one of the vinyl. Track number 8, we got a Good Day Sunshine, which Good Day Sunshine was influenced by the Lovin' Spoonful song Daydream, which that was like a pop rock psychedelic group from the 60s and stuff like that too. So this one was a very cool song, interesting song or whatnot. So yeah, not really one of my favorites, but very cool. Next track, And Your Bird Can Sing. Um, this track right here again, credited as John and Paul and stuff like that. Again, another song where I like it. It's not like one of my favorites, but I don't exactly hate it either. And Your Bird Can Sing pretty much was just like what I got from that track was the way they used bird. It was like slang for girl, and a lot of people. I'm sorry about that. Camera's going through some technical difficulties, but from what I looked up, bird is pretty much a slang term when it comes to girl. And so there's like a lot of theories as to who this song is actually about. And so there's this one theory that John Lennon wrote this song about Frank Sinatra. Because you know Frank Sinatra, from what I looked up, he said something about John in an Esquire issue. But there's also other theories saying that he had written this song about what's his name, Mick Jagger, and his girlfriend at the time, Marianne Faithfull, and stuff too. So yeah, man, very interesting song. Um, I'm actually gonna pull some of my notes on my phone and stuff like that since his webcam wants to play around and stuff. So, oh boy, this is a day for me. Damn. Next track, For No One. That's the next track off this album that was written by George Harrison. And out of all, no wait, oh my god, For No One was written by Paul McCartney and whatnot. Very dope song. It has like a baroque pop feel to it. Has a baroque pop feel to it. Pretty much, you can also see some of Brian Wilson's influence. You can also see some of Brian Wilson's influence because a lot of the songwriting when it comes to Pet Sounds talk about like the heartbreak and the end of a relationship, and so that's basically what I got for No One. Very cool song. Next track we got is Dr. Robert, which Dr. Robert, that's another John Lennon written track where he's pretty much talking about a doctor like a it's like a drug song pretty much, and it's influenced by like the Doctor Feel Good because a higher doctor prescribing like drugs and amphetamines, but he under a doctoral procedure and stuff like that. So that's basically what I got from Dr. Robert, and yeah, I found it. It was based off of real Dr. Robert Freeman, and Dr. Robert Freeman supplied many celebrities with drugs over the years, especially the Beatles and stuff like that. So yeah, man, crazy shit right there. So far this webcam is still working. Next track, I Want to Tell You. This was the George Harrison track. I like George Harrison he has some good songs on his album, but I never really cared for this track. Right here, it's probably my least favorite when it comes to his written tracks. So yeah, man, very okay song. Now we're gonna get into the last two tracks. We're gonna get into Got to Get You Into My Life, which is, in my opinion, my favorite track off this album. My favorite track off this album. Paul McCartney's solo, he did this track mostly about marijuana, his love for pot and stuff like that. But the way he did this track, he made it like a old Motown feel to it and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? He made like a Motown feel, and like you can really hear like the influence he has for Motown and stacks in his voice. I'm like, got to get you into my life, because for so many years, a lot of people thought that he was talking about a girl for so many years. Cause like the way he just written the song, the whole lines like, "What can I do? What can I be when I'm with you? I want to stay there. If I'm true, I'll never leave. And if I do, I know the way." Like, cause at first I thought he was talking about a chick too. Cause I kind of compare this song to Rick Rick James on Mary Jane, because years later when he did this song for the Come and Get It album, a lot of Motown executives for years thought that he was talking about a girl and stuff too. So Yeah, man. Very cool song. And in my opinion, and this is my honest opinion, I prefer the Earth, Wind, and Fire version of this track that they've done for the Sergeant Pepper soundtrack. Not the album, because they did a movie based on Sergeant Pepper a decade after the album was released. But I would not recommend it. Just throwing it out there. So yeah, man. And this was actually the first Beatles track that actually used horns too. So, and the final track off this album, Tomorrow Never Knows. Yeah, this is like my third track off this third favorite track off this album. Um, Ringo's best drumming is on this track right here. You know what I'm saying? And it's a very psychedelic track. Probably the most psychedelic song the Beatles maybe has ever recorded and stuff like that. Uh, John Lennon, he really drew inspiration from this book called The Psychedelic Experience, a manual based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Yeah, interesting. And so with this track right here, it was also influential for its use of sampling and whatnot, you know. And just to let you guys know, because I know a lot of rock heads want to be all like, oh well, hip hop samples all the time, but let's be real, the Beatles were the ones who really put that shit on there and stuff like that too. But you know what? I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that. So this is a very very trippy song, um, and that's all the time I have for this album. Overall, very 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 classic album. This is a okay. This camera's about to fuck up now, so let me wrap this up. So this is a very very okay. Right now, I am over this. I do apologize. This webcam is giving me a lot of technical difficulties today. I definitely need to get a new webcam. This last couple of minutes has just been kind of trying for me. But let's see if I can do this again. Now, this is a very influential album. Very dope album. You see all four members growing together, songwriting wise, growing together, you know, with this singing and stuff like that too. Um, Must have in your collection. In my opinion, I kind of prefer this over Sergeant Pepper. I mean, Sergeant Pepper's a good album in its own right, but I probably feel like this was like a more psychedelic album than that. You know what I'm saying? Must have in your collection. This is the Beatles Revolver, 1966. And thank y'all so much for watching. Again, sorry for the technical. Oh, I gotta give a quick shout out. I want to give a quick shout out to my homegirl Ash. She hooked me up with a copy of Tony Braxton's The Heat. This was released in 2000 on LaFace Records and stuff like that. You know, just I think the single like He Wasn't Man Enough. Spanish Guitar. I know that was a big single back in like 2000. What else? What else? Yeah, man. This was a very dope album. Very probably my favorite Tony Braxton album, if you ask me. I kind of like this album a bit more than Secrets. I know it's a sacrilegious thing to say, but you know what? I don't give a fuck. To keep it a buck with y'all. Um, yeah, He Wasn't Man Enough, Spanish Guitar, Just Be a Man About It, and Maybe. Those are all singles. There's a difference between this album and like a previous two because with this album she kind of has more of like a hip hop influence style and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what? Well, the first album had like an R&B but had some hip hop touches to it, but this album had like a full on hip hop R&B ish kind of sound. So her best album, in my opinion. Expect a review on this sometime this month. Shout out to Ashley for this thank you. And that's all the time I have. Stay tuned for more. Peace.